Hello, welcome to BEH 221 Resolution-Based Counseling Skills. Today we're going to be talking about the actions of encouraging, paraphrasing, summarizing, active listening, and cognition. So to start, let's talk about cognition and active listening. Encouraging, paraphrasing, and summarizing are active listening skills that are the cognitive center of the basic listening sequence and are key in the building of an empathetic relationship. When clients sense that their story is heard, they open up and become more ready for change. This leads to more effective executive brain functioning and thus to improve cognitive understanding, organization of issues, and decision making. Emotional regulation is the other critical aspect of executive brain functioning. This chapter focuses primarily on cognition and the pursuit of a cognitive/emotional balance. And then right there on the bottom is a little picture that demonstrates the process model of emotional regulation. Something happens to us, gets our attention, we decide how we want to deal with it, and then we respond. Now, what we're losing here is that impulsive need to lash out. And that's an important element because if we become better at regulating our own emotions, we can become better at controlling our impulses. So, just to review the brain's executive functions. We have activation, which is the organizing, prioritizing, getting to work. Focus, which is that tuning in, sustaining focus, and shifting your attention. Effort, regulating alertness, sustaining effort, adjusting, processing speed. Emotions, which is managing frustrations and modulating emotions, and that's oftentimes one of the hardest things we deal with. Holding on and working with information is part of our memory process, and that also includes retrieving memories. And then finally, action, monitoring and regulating one's actions. So as you can see, the executive function is quite busy in our brain, and helping it to regulate the emotional response to scenarios will definitely benefit you and the client. So cognition is the mental process of acquiring knowledge and understanding through thought, experience, and our senses. Emotion is a natural instinctive state of mind deriving from one's circumstances, mood, or experiences with others. So if we're in a good mood and our love muffin tells us something that is irritating, we'll just blow it off. But if we're in a nasty mood, if we've had a really bad day and our love muffin says something dumb, that might start World War III because we have had it and our emotional response is over the top. Generally, we experience an emotion and need to process that experience to understand what happened through our cognitive activities. And that's where emotional regulation really comes in, because we have to say, is this a big deal? Is this a little deal? Should I respond over the top? Should I respond minimally? So just to kind of put it in graphic perspective, we have an experience, we have an emotional response, and then we process the experience cognitively in order to understand the experience. So a lot of what counselors are doing is helping their clients process the experiences that they've had and the emotional response that they've had, and determining whether or not that could have been an improved response, or understanding why you lost your mind or got mad or started crying. So, we're bringing together the two disparate qualities of intellect and emotion. Active listening is a communication process that requires intentional participation, decision-making, and responding. What we listen to, i.e. selective attention, and respond to has a profound influence on how clients talk to us about their concerns. When a client shares with us a lot of information all at once and speaks rapidly, we can find ourselves confused and even overwhelmed by the complexity of the story. We need to hear this client accurately and often slow the story down a bit. Our accurate listening, in turn, leads to client understanding and synthesis, providing clients with a clearer picture of their own stories. So, the better we listen and help them understand what's going on in their story, the better the clients will understand their own experience. Active listening is central in facilitating our brain's executive functioning, the cognitive understanding, and the emotional foundations. Encouraging, paraphrasing, and summarizing are basic to emphatic understanding and enable you to communicate to clients that they have been heard. You say back to clients what you have heard using their key words. You help clients by distilling, shortening, and clarifying what has been said. When you use emphatic listening skills, be sure not to mix in your own ideas with what the client has been saying. And again, this is our ability to compartmentalize and focus exclusively on the client. Encouragers are verbal and nonverbal expressions the counselor or therapist can use to prompt clients to continue talking. Encouragers include minimal verbal utterances, for example, and head nods, open-handed gestures, and positive facial expressions that encourage the client to keep talking. Silence, accompanied by appropriate nonverbal communication, can be another type of encourager. These encouragers are not meant to direct client talk, rather they simply encourage clients to keep talking. And what we mean by this is that when you ask a question and the client responds, and you do not immediately follow up with a comment or another question, that silence will often encourage the client to keep talking because, especially in the United States, silence is awkward and the client wants to fill that awkwardness. And we, as the therapist, have to appreciate the fact that silence can oftentimes be more helpful than, a long discussion on something, because you want the client to really dig deep and talk about what is going on in their head. In addition, we have repetition of keywords as an encourager. And it can encourage a client and has more influence on the direction of client talk. Consider the following client statement. Quote, "And then it happened again. The grocery store clerk gave me a dirty look and I got angry. It reminded me of my last job where I had so much trouble getting along. Why are they always after me?" The counselor could use a variety of short encouragers in questioning tone of voice. Angry? Last job? Trouble getting along? After you? Tell me more. And in each case, the client would likely talk about a different topic. Be careful of your selection of single-word encouraging responses, as they may direct clients more than you realize. So, for example, if we say angry, that might send the client in a direction that's really not very productive. Restatement is a type of extended encourager in which the counselor or interviewer repeats short statements of 2 or more words exactly as used by the client. The clerk gave you a dirty look. You got angry. As with short encouragers, different types of restatements lead the client in different directions. So again, you have to really pay attention to that client and see what is the best response. Every client is different, so there's no hard and fast rule. You really just have to read the situation. And of course, Albert Einstein has shared with us, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. So you really sometimes have to simplify for the client what they're feeling, because they're so jumbled up with their emotions that they don't have a clear perspective on what's going on. In encouraging and restating, exact words and phrases are fed back to the client. Paraphrasing covers more of what the client has just said, usually several sentences. Paraphrasing continues to create a feedback loop of keywords and phrases, but catches and distills the essence of what the client has said. When you paraphrase, the tone of your voice and your body language indicate to the client whether you are interested in listening in more depth or would prefer that the client move on to another topic. In terms of how we are using the paraphrasing, it oftentimes can lead the client to the area that you think they need to work on the most. But you also have to be aware that sometimes they get stuck in a rut and you have to move them on. Now this little cartoon over here on the right hand side, I love this one. It is a line from Hamlet, Shakespeare's great tragedy, and the quote is, "To be or not to be." And the paraphrase would be, "Life sucks, but the alternative might suck more." And that's really what paraphrasing is all about. Sometimes you just got to put it in plain language. Appropriate plain language. Accurate paraphrasing will help the client stop repeating a story unnecessarily. Some clients have complex problems that no one has ever bothered to hear accurately, and they literally need to tell their story over and over until someone indicates that they have been heard clearly. How do you paraphrase? Observe the client, hear the important words, but the main ideas and concepts must reflect the client's view of the world, not yours. An accurate paraphrase usually consists of 4 dimensions. 1. A sentence stem, sometimes using the client's name. For example, Damaris, I hear you saying, blah, blah, blah. Number 2, the key words used by the client to describe the situation or person. Number 3, the essence of what the client has said in briefer and clearer form. And finally, number 4, a checkout for accuracy. Here you ask the client for feedback on whether the paraphrase or other skill was correct and useful. Well-timed encouragers maintain flow and continually communicate to the client that you are listening. All types of encouragers facilitate client talk unless they are overused or used badly. Picking out a keyword or short phrase to use as an encourager often leads clients to provide you with their underlying thoughts, feelings, or behaviors related to that word or phrase. Just one well-observed word or restatement can open important new avenues in the session. On the other hand, the use of too many encouragers can seem wooden and unexpressive, whereas too few encouragers may suggest to clients that you are not interested. Summarizing falls along the same continuum as the skills, encouragers, restatement, and paraphrasing. Summarizing, however, encompasses a longer period of conversation than paraphrasing. At times, it may cover an entire interview or even issues discussed by the client over several interviews. The summary essentially puts together and organizes client conversation, thus supporting the brain's functioning. Many summaries also include client's emotional and feeling tone, as well as cognitive paraphrases. As emotions are often first reactions and typically occur before cognition regulates emotion, this area needs special attention. A major role of executive functioning is emotional regulation, outlined in the next chapter. In summarizing, the interviewer attends to verbal and nonverbal comments from the client over a period of time and selectively attends to key concepts and dimensions, restating them for the client as accurately as possible. A checkout at the end for accuracy is a key part of summarizing. For example, focus on the emotional words in your summary. So, at the beginning of a session, let's see, last time we talked about your feelings towards your mother-in-law. and we discussed the argument you had with her when the new baby arrived. You saw yourself as guilty and anxious. Since then, you haven't gotten along too well. We also discussed a plan of action for the week. How did that go? So the summarization of the session is basically a review of the session you had the week before. An easy way to think about summarizing is it's shorter than the text. Use your own words and main ideas only. So, you're looking at those key words that signify emotion in terms of bringing it forward for the client to review. Listening skills used with adults are also useful with children. Children often go through life being told what to do. If we listen to them and their singular constructions of the world, we can reinforce their unique qualities and help them develop a belief in themselves and their own value. In this way, we are increasing their executive functioning, a necessary part of growth and development. Children generally respond best if you seek to understand the world as they do. Smiling, warmth, and the active listening skills are all essential. Frequently paraphrase or restate what they have said using their important words. Under stress, children may be confused, so be careful that the story you bring out is theirs and not yours. Talk to children at their eye level whenever possible. Avoid looking down at them. This may mean sitting on the floor or in very small chairs. Be prepared for more topic jumps with children. Use attending skills to bring them back to critical issues. They may need to expend excess energy by doing something with their hands. Allow them to draw or play with sand or clay as they talk to you, or engage them in a game like Chutes and Ladders or checkers. Questions can put off some children, although they remain one of the best ways to obtain information. Seek to get the child's perspective, not yours, while remaining carefully aware not to use leading questions that might bring out inaccurate stories. And that's one of the major issues when working with children, is the fact of the matter is that they will make up a story as quickly as they tell the truth, because they don't have that moral barometer yet that, lying is wrong. For them, it's creating a fiction, it's creating a story, and stories are something that are very important to them. Children may have difficulty with a general open question such as, "Could you tell me what happened?" Use short sentences, simple words, and a concrete language style. Break down abstract questions into concrete and situational language, using a mix of closed and open questions. Where were you when the fight occurred? What was going on just before the fight? Then what happened? How did he feel? Was she angry? What happened next? What happened afterwards? So there is a lot more prompting in terms of getting the client to follow the narrative plot or theme. When questioning children on touchy issues, be especially careful of leading questions, which can easily lead to inaccurate understanding of situations. More importantly, leading questions have been known to encourage development of false memories in both children and adults. And, false memory is a whole dynamic that we're not going to really touch on too much right now, but it really does kind of create for the client this sense of, okay, I need to provide a memory that I don't have. So I'm going to allow my imagination to take over in a sense and create a false memory. But from a perspective of consciousness, you don't necessarily realize it's a false memory because you're just trying to please your therapist. The active listening skills of encouraging, paraphrasing, and summarizing are key to the understanding client cognitions. When we attend to clients and use the active listening skills, we facilitate executive functioning and the development of new neural networks that become part of long-term memory in the hippocampus. Moreover, the very act of listening can lead to restorying, the development of new meanings and new ways of thinking. The new story leads to more effective executive functioning in the brain and more effective action as seen in overt behavior. So over there on the right-hand side is just kind of reviewing where the hippocampus is in the brain and its functions, which include our senses, sense of smell, memory formation, instinctive thinking, sexual arousal, behavior, and emotions. And in terms of its primary job, in a lot of ways it is memory formation. Executive functioning is also critical for emotional regulation. We use our cognitive capacity to regulate impulsive emotions and act appropriately in complex situations, especially when we feel challenged. So, for example, if you're at work and someone gets verbally abusive towards you, your initial reaction might be to yell back. But if you're in a professional environment and you're the boss, you have to maintain a sense of focus in order to communicate and calm the situation down. Ineffective executive functioning may lead to negative emotions, impulsive actions, feelings of anxiety, or depression. Cognition is the thought processes underlying all thinking activities, such as analyzing, imagining, remembering, judging, and problem solving. Over here on the right is a zone of regulation concept that is often used especially with children. The blue zone is when you're feeling blue, sad, sick, tired, bored, feeling like your life is stuck. The green zone, happy. Think of green for go. Happy, calm, feeling good, focused, ready to learn. Then we have the yellow zone, caution, frustrated, worried, silly or wiggly, excited, loss of some control. So, you're not quite over the line yet, but you're getting there. And then the red zone, of course, we know, is that danger. Mad, angry, mean, terrified, hitting and yelling, basically out of control. So when we look at this kind of zone of regulation, it seems very simple. And it is, because our emotional barometer doesn't go from infinity to infinity. There's a very finite number of emotions that we tend to feel. Periodic encouraging, paraphrasing, and summarizing are basic skills that seem to have wide cross-cultural acceptance. Virtually all of your clients like to be listened to accurately. We all just want to be heard. But it may take more time to establish a relationship with clients who are culturally different from you, and knowledge of their language and culture will help. And remember, when we listen, we learn. So the better we are at listening, the better we are at learning. So that's it for today. If you have any questions, please contact your instructor. If you do not attend our college, please leave us a comment and we will respond as quickly as we can. Thank you and have a fantastic day.